Hi everyone, I'm Jordan Bifolki, SpecialEurasia Research Manager, and welcome to this new episode of Geopolitical Report podcast. Today, I want to discuss with you the news regarding the inclusion of Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson and Zaporozhye regions inside the southern military district of the Russian Federation. Also, thanks to this presidential decree signed by the President Vladimir Putin, they will recreate since the 1st of March 2024 the military district of Moscow and Leningrad, and they will link and they will um, include inside the Leningrad military district the Northern Fleet. Why does it matter? This matters because, first of all, if we look at Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson regions, being part of the Southern Military District means that the Russian Federation considers these areas, these regions, as part of the Russian sovereign territory. And this means also that the Kremlin has the right, according to the Russian federal law, to defend and to protect these territories from external attacks, external military threats. Particularly coming from Ukraine now, if we consider the situation Ukraine conflict of the so-called special military operation. And this also means that the Russian Federation, particularly Vladimir Putin, is sending a strong message to the international opinion, particularly the West, Europe, United States, because he's saying that these regions, these areas are part of the Russian sovereign territory, and now that they are part also the Southern Federal District, any kind of threats and attacks can cause an harsh response from the Russian side. Also, the recreation of the military district of Moscow and Leningrad links the current Russian Federation with the Soviet Union, and is another message in a period that is really significant because we are waiting for the Russian presidential election in March 2024, and as you know, a month before the election, there was this case regarding the death of Navalny, the Russian political opposition, that he was against Vladimir Putin, and the West decided to support him, and because of his death, all the attention was on the Russian presidential election, and the West, some Western countries and governments labeled this presidential election as fake, as a farce, and also they say that Vladimir Putin killed all those politicians who are against him. And so, from taking from thinking about this episode, this event, and thinking also about the strong message that Russia is sending, recreating military district in Moscow and Leningrad, and including Zaporizhia, Kherson, Lugansk, Donetsk inside the southern military district, we can interpret what is happening is just a confrontation between the West and Russia from different levels, different layers. Also, this presidential decree came after a couple of weeks really positive regarding the Ukraine conflict for the Russian armed forces. The Russian armed forces had some special victories on the ground against the Ukrainian forces, and we are witnessing a special situation because even though Ukraine is asking for more support by the West, more weapons, more financial support, on the ground, the Ukraine lacks any kind of military victories, and even though the Ukrainian armed forces say that they are not losing the cities, but they prefer to retreat, to regroup, to organize a better defense of the territory. The fact is that Russian flags in the last 2 weeks were seen in different cities and different territories. So, this is very important now because we have on the one side the information warfare. So we have the Navalny's death case that is, you know, mm, manipulating or is influencing, affecting the the Russian presidential election, particularly from the Western media coverage, and we have on the other side the Russian inside the Russian Federation, the media, which are underlining the success in on the ground in Ukraine by the Russian armed forces, and we have the Kremlin, which is reorganizing his military apparatus, particularly the military district. And this can also mean that we will have in the future a sort of a military reshuffle or some changes, or some of the officer, army officer can be in charge of some specific position. Everything comes before the presidential election. For sure, we are going to monitoring the presidential election. We will analyze more and more for one reason. Probably we know that we think that the future president of Russian Federation will be again Vladimir Putin, according to the exit polls, according to also the narrative. But what is important is understanding how this presidential election can support the governance and also the government of the Russian Federation. And if Russia will continue to be inside the country strong and stable, it will be really hard from the western side to decrease its power or to undermine the country inside in the domestic politics. So, thanks for your attention. See you to the next episode of Geopolitical Report podcast. Bye bye.